My life is a hot ass mess. Good morning, love bugs. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new, hi, my name is Christiana and welcome to the channel. So today we are getting into a conversation about being anxious avoidant. If you found this video, it's probably because you feel that you are anxious avoidant too, and I just want to chat about it, my experience with it. I only recently accepted the anxious part of the anxious avoidant. I've always exhibited some avoidant behavior and avoidant attachment styles, but recently I came across something that described an anxious avoidant attachment style, and as I was reading it, I was like, oh my god, that is me to a T. So for anyone who feels that they're anxious avoidant or just curious and clicked on the video and want to know, I'm going to dive into it a little bit in terms of some things that I found on the internet, describing some of my own personal experiences with it, and I'm gonna get this face together because she looks a little tired, per usual. So let's get into it. So anything that I have already put on the face or that I plan to put on the face, links for that stuff will be down below in the description box. If you are product girlies, then I got you hooked up there, but if you're not interested in that, then who cares? You're here to learn about anxious avoidant attachment styles. So let's get into it. So before I start tinkering with this face, I do want to read what anxious avoidant attachment style is, just for all of our knowledge, so that we all are on the same baseline in terms of what we're talking about. So anxious avoidant attachment style differs by exhibiting both a desire for intimacy and a fear of it, leading to a push-pull dynamic where individuals crave closeness but simultaneously withdraw or suppress emotions to avoid potential hurt. That is the foundation or basis behind avoidant attachment styles. So keep that in mind. So as I'm doing this face, I'm gonna dive into a couple of different areas and then talk about my own personal experiences, because I like to get on here and yap about my business, because y'all are like my homegirls. Like, I get on here and tell my business, not too much, because the internet is ruthless and I don't have time for people to tap in on my life. I tap in on my own life enough and drag myself enough, so I don't need to invite other people to drag me. But I just like to get on here and yap a little bit, y'all. Y'all know how it goes. So let's get into it. Okay. I'm so annoyed because a lot of my everyday stuff I'm out of, and I keep saying, oh, I'm gonna order it, and I never get around to it, probably because I am riddled with anxiety day to day and feeling like I don't have a grasp on my life, so I just oftentimes don't get anything done. Anybody else feel that way with their anxiety? Their anxiety is like debilitating sometimes. It feels from the outside, people are looking at me like, oh, she's got it going on. Like, she is really getting things done. She's that girl. She is got it together. And the reality of the situation is I don't. My life is a hot ass mess, and it really sucks because I feel like there's just like some incongruence between how people perceive me and what I feel my reality is. There probably is also some incongruence in how people perceive me and how I perceive myself, which I think everyone struggles with that, right? Like, maybe not everyone. There are some people who have secure attachment styles, who are just extremely confident. They do the work, maybe they go to therapy, maybe they, have a lot of time with themselves and they feel all around good about themselves. But I think the majority of us struggle with self-worth, self-acceptance, and just getting through life day to day. It's a struggle, y'all, okay? So why am I up at the crack of dawn having this conversation? So for anyone who's not new here, you know that I have a boyfriend. I'm in a relationship. It's probably one of the first serious relationships I've been in a while. And I have to say it's probably the first serious relationship I've been in as my fully realized self. I'm pushing 40. I've done a lot of work to get to where I am today, and I feel like I'm now in a place where I can show up in a relationship fully, like as myself, right? I feel like I've done a lot of the self-work to really understand who I am fundamentally, and now I feel like I can bridge that with someone else, right? The problem is that as an anxious avoidant attachment style, I crave the companionship, the intimacy, the connection, but I also am so fearful of the rejection of being open and vulnerable that I have moments where I feel like I want to flee or that I want to emotionally close off because I just don't feel safe. It doesn't feel comfortable to me. It doesn't necessarily mean that my partner is not providing a safe space or environment, that they are not showing up in the proper way. It just means that I feel that the actions of my I process and perceive the actions of my partner as I preemptively brace for rejection or preemptively plan my exit for rejection, and it sucks so bad. So I was looking at something that talked about some specific areas that embody anxious avoidant attachment styles. So let's talk about some of them. So oftentimes anxious avoidant attachment styles avoid close relationships. They may have a sense of self-worth but distrust others, leading them to dismiss the value of intimacy. Why did they clock me like that? Why did they clock me like that? Because literally that is me for the longest time. Everyone who's known me has known that don't talk to me about trying to be in a relationship. Like, I'm working on myself. I'm trying to get myself together. Like, that always was me. I was like, maybe I'm destined to be an old maid because I just feel like I value myself and I have everything I need. I bring everything to the table that I need in order to lead a fulfilling and happy life, right? The avoidant side of me is like, girl, don't even dip your toe in that pond when it comes to relationships and love. And even like my platonic relationships, like friendships, I feel like I've discussed on here where I feel like, I think in my last video when I was talking about loneliness, when I kind of was talking about how I always like to talk while I'm doing this neck. I just don't understand. Let me do this neck and let me come back. One sec. Okay, so I talked about how, in a lot of my relationships, I felt like in order to build relationships with people, right? Like to avoid loneliness, I would build relationships with people, but they oftentimes weren't rooted in authenticity and transparency. I felt like I was doing what I needed to do in order to cultivate relationships for my own self-fulfillment. Well, also a part of that is that I felt like I had a firmer grasp on that relationship. So basically I felt more in control. If I control the narrative, if I control how people perceive me, if I can make them think that I'm the funny girl, then I don't have to worry about what other people think or how other people will perceive me if I just show up as my unfiltered, unapologetic, authentic self. If I give them the response, then I don't have to worry about confronting the opinions, the rejection, the fear, and the fear of that by other people's opinions, like from the opinions of other people in terms of what they think about me. If I'm not even showing up as if I'm protecting, holding my authentic self in a cell deep within, and I'm just giving you this carbon copy version of myself that may be, just 40% of who I am, that may meet the vibe of the setting, right? Meet the vibe of the group, of the setting, then it's a win-win. Everybody loves this version of me because I fit the vibe, but I also don't have to worry about them really knowing the full, unfiltered version of me. Everyone's winning, right? That is the avoidant in me, avoiding true connection and true transparency, because I feel like you lose a sense of control. You lose a sense of control, and you don't have to worry about rejection. Because the one thing about an avoidant is that fear of rejection. The avoidant won't even put themselves in the ballpark, in the game, to deal with that. Okay? But the anxiousness in me wants that. I want so badly for people to know and love the full me, and it riddles my thoughts. I'm very sensitive to what others, like how other people show up and react to me. Like, I'm very sensitive to energies and how people respond to a situation or to me. I'm just constantly observing and looking, and it's honestly torturous sometimes. It really is. It can be torturous. When I put the color corrector on, y'all, I look so ashy and look a mess. But I've learned with this to trust the process, because I'm sorry. I just looked at myself in the viewfinder and was like, girl, what? We look like Ronald McDonald. It's giving crazy, right? But we're gonna get it together. Focus. But anyway, so back to the avoiding of close relationships. Platonically and romantically, I've always been that way. I've avoided close relationships because, to be quite frank with you, I always say I am scared of myself in close. When I become close with someone, it becomes all consuming, and I hate that for me, because sometimes you often are disappointed. You often just feel like, for me, I'm very passionate and I love very hard. So I feel like that is my expectation of others as well. I've learned through therapy, and disclaimer, this is me, just a casual girly with a psych degree and a love of psychology, discussing this topic. Like, I'm not a professional at all, and if you want to dive deeper into your own, psychotherapy, you should probably speak with a therapist. I meant to give that disclaimer at the beginning because, girl, I'm not qualified to be giving professional advice. I mean, hopefully one day I would love to be a therapist, but in this economy, girl, I can't afford to go back to school right now. So unless somebody wants to give me some free money, make school free 99, then I can't afford to go back to school right now. But that's a conversation for another day. Oh, I didn't even put the rest of my sunscreen on. Wait, girl, I'm so busy yapping, I didn't even do the process right. Yeah, so I just, being a passionate person, I know how I show up in relationships. I give 1000%. I love very hard, and I'm talking in my platonic and romantic relationships. Romantic relationships are not something that I'm extremely experienced in because of the avoidant attachment style in me. I've been in a couple of serious relationships that were very traumatizing for me. So, Siri girl, you's over here just being a whole stalker, just listening in on everything. I'm probably gonna have a bajillion ads about therapy and attachment styles today in all of my social media. It's kind of crazy how this technology does that. But anyway, let me focus. So, yeah, I show up and I'm very intense. I'm very passionate about my relationships with people who I love. So it can be a lot for me to manage. It can be a lot for others to process, to deal with. Like, I feel like it borderline scares people how intense I can be once I have made the commitment that you are a loved one. Like, you are someone that I really, really cherish, value, and I want to show up for you. I want to show up for you as your friend. I want to show up for you as your partner. I just want to show up for you and show you how much I love you, right? It is torturous sometimes being that way, because the expectation is that, well, I've learned not to have this expectation, or try not to, but it still sometimes rears its ugly head. But the expectation is that, you know, you will be loved back as intensely, as passionately. Like, people will, you know, show up for you and care about you as intensely as you do them. And that simply is not the case. If there's one thing that I have learned through introspection and through therapy, is that we cannot control the actions of others. We are not responsible for the actions of other people. So get that out of your mind right now, that by you loving someone as intensely as you do, that they will reciprocate that back, because reciprocity requires intent. It requires that person to put forth the same energy that you are giving. But the only way that can happen is if they put it forth, which you can't control. What you're doing, what you are providing, doesn't control what they do back. That is a hard thing to grasp. I still tussle with it. Logically speaking, I understand it. Emotionally speaking, it's tough for me to this day to still understand how I can love so intensely and not feel it back the same way all the time. And it takes a lot of unpacking for me. I sit with myself a lot. I write in a journal. I do see a therapist. I haven't seen her in a while though. I know she's been on the channel, so she's probably like, girl, I ain't seen you in a minute. And that is a mistake. I definitely need to get back to therapy, because especially being in a relationship now, like, there are so many instances that I feel like I'm about to just crumble. I'm about to just have a meltdown, because I feel like a lot of times in a relationship, for me as an anxious-avoidant, when I feel like I'm showing up and I'm not getting what I need back, I feel like it's a me problem. Yeah, I make it a me issue, and that's simply not the case. Anyway, moving on to the next thing under here that characterizes anxious avoidance. It says struggle with commitment. They may enter relationships feeling present but become anxious and distant as commitment increases. Oh, clocking me. Yes. So I definitely have struggled with this in previous relationships. I don't know if I'm necessarily struggling with this as intensely in this particular relationship, because I feel a sense of safety and security. It's kind of a strange thing, because I'd say that I have probably spent less time with my current boyfriend than I have with previous boyfriends by this phase, but I still feel a connection, which is why when it comes to relationships, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of formula in terms of what works best for you. I mean, you just have to kind of find your rhythm with your partner and tune out the noise. Like, I know for me in particular, like, it can be hard to navigate relationships because I haven't been in many, so I do often seek the advice of others, but I'm learning that you have to seek the advice of others sparingly. And what I mean by that is that everyone has their own vantage point in terms of like how to navigate relationships, you know, and that's dictated by their experiences, but their experiences don't mirror your experiences. So the advice is not always going to translate, you know, well for your particular relationship and your particular experiences. So keep that in mind as well. But back to the topic, right? Wanting the commitment, getting in the commitment, and then being like, oh shit, like I'm in this and I'm nervous. I'm nervous that this is not gonna go the way that I want it to go. So, my gosh, maybe I should pull back some, right? That's classic me in a lot of my previous relationships. Like, get in there, it's like, ooh, I love this companionship, I love this intimacy, but then something inside of me is like, ooh, like, I don't know, what if this goes wrong? What if this shatters your world? It's like, maybe you should put your guard up a little bit, pull back a little bit, right? And I do have to say, I have had those thoughts and moments in my current relationship. My current relationship has been amazing, complex, emotionally draining, but emotionally fulfilling. And I think that when it comes to relationships, I think, there's lots of narratives online with people telling you, like, if your partner is doing this, red flag, run. If your partner is doing this, red flag, run. And while I do agree with certain extreme situations in terms of just like abuse and certain behaviors that just scream very extreme catastrophic behavior that will never lead you anyplace good, I feel like a lot of times the advice that these internet therapists, and I don't mean actual therapists, I mean people, a regular girl, a regular guy sitting on the internet giving advice to people, oftentimes it's misleading. It's very misleading, and it will lead you down a path of never finding a fulfilling connection and bond with people, because it's made as content, okay? They don't know you, your specific situation, circumstances, and a lot of times people make those videos as content. They are trying to build a following. They are trying to make a career out of, the internet yapping. Girl, I'm sitting here right now yapping about this on the internet. Yes, I am talking about my specific situation, about my personal situation, but at the same time, it is content. It is content, so you have to take it with a grain of salt. Go to seek a professional and talk about your specific situation with someone who has gone to school and continues to educate themselves on how to navigate these situations, okay? Promise me that you'll do that, all right? Okay. Because I think that a lot of times people just don't give therapists the proper credit that they deserve. Like, therapists are out here doing God's work. If you allow them, if you show up honestly, truly, your therapist cannot help you if you are lying to your therapist, okay? Boo-boos, like, I know some of you say, oh, I'm going to the therapist, I don't really feel like they're doing anything. Sometimes it is the therapist. Sometimes you need to shop around, date around a little bit with the therapist before you lock in on one. I know I did. I saw several therapists before I landed at my therapist, who literally got me through some of the hardest times of my life post my dad passing away over 4 years ago. Like, I started seeing her shortly after he passed away because I felt like I needed to see a professional to navigate this next chapter of my life. I'd always wanted to get back to a therapist. I've seen therapists over the course of my life. I have to say that after seeing my last therapist, that many of the therapists that I had before this one were not, I probably should have been shopping around, because I felt like going to therapy for me felt more transactional than helpful. And that had a lot to do with the fact that I just simply wasn't getting I didn't have the right connection with my previous therapist. And it's important for you to have that connection with your therapist. It really is. If you don't feel that bond, like, you should feel like you can be completely transparent and honest with your therapist, and that it's a safe space. And if you don't feel that connection, it's kind of like a friendship, you have to have some sense of a connection. It shouldn't feel distant or transactional. Like, it should feel like, oh, this person is another connection in my life, right? Different kind of connection, but it's a connection. So you should feel that when you're going to your therapist. And if you're not feeling that, I urge you to go to another therapist and test that out, another therapist, and see how that feels. And just keep testing out different therapists until you find one that you feel comfortable with, right? So yes. But anyway, off of that, I just am very pro-therapist, so oftentimes you will hear me in these videos really rant about going to see a therapist. Maybe it's the psych junkie in me, maybe it's me aspiring to be a therapist that guides that strong opinion about seeing therapists. But seeing a therapist transformed my life, I feel like. Is my life perfect? No. I'm suiting up to go DoorDash in an hour or two. Okay, that's where therapy has led me. I quit my job. I have a video on my channel about that experience because I didn't feel like I was fulfilled in what I was doing. And I felt like the only way for me to arrive at what I should be doing is letting go of what's holding me back. And that is the comfort of doing a job that I'm extremely good at, but extremely unfulfilled by. So I did it. But anyway, we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about being anxious-avoidant. And we're gonna move on to our next topic, which is fear of rejection. They may worry that partners are withdrawing and have a fear of being abandoned. Girl, oh my God. This right here is probably the most rampant quality that I possess. It is a tussle for me every day with all of my relationships, platonic and relationship, that I fear that my loved ones, my friends, my boyfriend are going to reject me. And I am extremely fearful of that rejection. It can be debilitating sometimes. Now, I feel like it rears its ugly head and shows up most intensely in my romantic relationship, right? Because as an anxious avoidant, the anxious side of me craves that companionship and that intimacy. I want that extremely, extremely bad. But the avoidant in me fears that rejection. I mean, the anxious side also fears the rejection and just kind of puts your heels in the dirt, doubles down, and tries to do things to mitigate that rejection. Whereas the avoidance, like, I'm going to head out before you reject me because I'm fearful of the rejection. I definitely exhibit both qualities in different situations, but the fear of the rejection is always there. And I hate that because I know that my loved ones love me, that their actions, each and every action that they do doesn't dictate their lack of love for me. It's like, I can take any situation. For instance, yesterday my boyfriend and I, we tentatively planned to go on a date, but he told me, he said, listen, I really want to go take you out. I really want to go on a date on Saturday. This was like a couple days before Saturday, so maybe like Thursday. He's like, I really want to go on a date, but he was like, I have to work this weekend. He's like, I have a big project at work and we have to work through the weekend. So he said, I'll be working through Monday on this big project. So he's like, I really feel like I want to take you out on a date on Saturday, but I can't say for certain that it's 100%. He's like, I really want to, but I can't 100% say that that's going to happen. Just want to be honest with you up front. I was like, I appreciate the honesty, but in my head I heard date Saturday, woo! Like, and possibly not happening, but date on Saturday, yay! So Saturday comes around and he's just like, rain check. I'm so tired from work, like I'm not even gonna be fun to be around, right? I'm just tired, I need sleep. So rain check on the date. The anxious avoidant attachment style, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like rejection. Like I start to roll through all of the things, like what did I do wrong? Like why am I not good enough to prioritize? Even when you're tired, why would you not want to go out on a date with me? Like I literally have all of these psychotic thoughts in the moment. Like I start to qualify my worth because he canceled on our date night for reasons that he preemptively explained and explained in the moment. It's debilitating sometimes, and it's irrational. And I know some people may say like, but maybe your gut reaction, your intuition is telling you some things. Maybe, but a lot of times it's overreaction. I tend to internalize a lot. The avoidant in me internalizes and, makes plans and moves to kind of move on my own and kind of flee a situation when I feel overwhelmed by a situation. But the anxious in me runs the scenarios and runs what I could have done, how I could be a better person, how I could show up differently so that this doesn't happen again. And it becomes all consuming to the point where when I start to go down that path, I literally order me some good food, find something really entertaining for me to watch, like something that I know will like distract me, and like maybe something that I know how to recite, like the Tiffany Pollard, like dragging Gemma scenes. I'll go and find like a video like that and just lean into that, eat my good food, and just veg out and relax. Relaxing is one of the hardest things for me. Like I know that sounds crazy and weird. Like, girl, how come you can't relax? I can't, because the anxious part of the attachment style for me is always constantly running hypotheticals and scenarios about the actions of others and how I could have shown up differently and how I could have changed things by changing how I move. And honestly, it's simply not the case 90% of the time. Simply put, it's wasted brain power trying to something on this tip. It's simply wasted time doing that, and it completely negates a lot of the work that I've done to love and appreciate who I am, like show up as my. It is so hot in here, like oh my god, I don't know why it's so hot in here. Come on face. This face ain't nothing, girl. This face is the everyday face, but I just love when I don't look tired. It's so nice. Let me run through some of these last ones really quickly, because we could talk about fear of rejection all day. That probably is the biggest one for me that rules my life. As an anxious avoidant, one sec, I gotta spray some on my face. There's nothing like that. Setting spray. You put that setting spray on your face, it's like, baby, I'm clocked in. I am now officially that girl, okay? Seriously, I don't know. I feel like once you put that setting spray on, it's like I've transformed. I move with purpose. Hips swaying, like, I know y'all staring at me because I know I'm that girl, period. But anyway, next one is have difficulty with emotions. They may find it hard to deal with emotions and prefer to rely on themselves. Yup. That kind of goes back to where I was saying how I really would lean into controlling the narrative in terms of what I show people, so I feel this sense of, girl, I got mascara. It's been a long time since I didn't let the mascara dry to the point where it transferred under my. Anyway, because you struggle with dealing with emotions, I feel like you withdraw a lot. Or when you show up in a way that is very guarded, because you feel like you simply can't trust that people will not hurt you, and the subsequent emotions that come from that, how they will dictate and rule your life. For me, I'm an emotional person, and I know that emotions can be extremely difficult for me to navigate. like they become all consuming. And simply put, at this big age with all of these responsibilities that I don't have the time to really deal with that, right? It's hard. Emotions are hard, y'all. I know. I want a little bit of a wing today, y'all. I don't know why, but I feel like I want to snatch the eyes a little bit today. So we're gonna do it. But it's hard for me to talk and do this, so I have to concentrate on this liner really quickly, and then we'll get back in the conversation. One sec. Okay, so yeah, it's emotions for me. I hadn't been in a relationship before this relationship in years. And you want to know the reason why? Because I know that when I am in relationships, the emotional roller coaster of being in a relationship oftentimes would throw me off of other things that I have going on in my life, like my career, like my self-worth and self-respect. Like navigating the emotions of a relationship really can become consuming for me, and that's a hard thing to deal with. Sorry y'all, I hate when my hair is super flat. Okay, I need a thumbnail, but yeah, emotions are hard, and they're all consuming, and as an anxious avoidant, we like to avoid them as much as possible. So oftentimes I'll self-sabotage. I will withdraw completely. Like sometimes I'll go days without communicating with like my friends or loved ones, just randomly out of nowhere. And people are just like, hey girl, are you okay? That is rooted in me not wanting to deal with the emotions if I can just stay to myself. When I stay to myself, like with the exception of the hormonal shifts, and if you are a girl or anyone that's just dealing with estrogen levels fluctuating throughout your month, then you understand that those emotions are just uncontrollable. But the ones that I can control by staying to myself, I do that quite often. And finally, craving freedom. And I think that kind of just piggybacks off of the fleeing, the withdrawing, the control, the freedom, it says they may prefer being alone or focusing on other pursuits. Baby, when I tell you, when those emotions get overwhelming for me, or I feel like a situation gets overwhelming for me, the first thing I will do is I will double down on work. I'll tap into a creative endeavor and project. And from the outside, that doesn't look problematic, right? It doesn't seem like, it's like, oh, okay, you're really getting into, back into some of your passions and things like that. But it is to avoid dealing with these other things in my life that I care about. It's to get away from that, right? So it's not necessarily a positive to lean into this, to avoid this. You gotta confront what needs to be confronted. You have to communicate. You have to express how you feel. That's what I've learned in being anxious avoidant, that I see the characteristics. I know I am who I am. A lot of this was set in motion just over the course of my childhood. A lot of your attachment style is how you were nurtured, or the lack thereof. Your experiences in your early life as children and as an adolescent will really dictate your attachment style as an adult. So any experiences that you've had in your childhood, think back to them. A lot of times you can find the correlation and understand, oh, I understand completely why I'm this attachment style, right? So that's my experience with anxious attachment. I know I'm abruptly ending, but the face is done, girl, and I gotta get up out of here soon. So I want to hear your experiences. If you are anxious avoidant and you have experiences, let's chat about it down below in the comments. If you just found this video interesting, thank you. Let me know down below in the comments. Also, be sure to like the video, please. I'm trying to grow the channel. I enjoy having these conversations, and if you enjoy conversations like this, subscribe, because I'm going to be doing a lot of this. Honestly though, this channel platform is a bit all over the place, so mystery box girl, surprise, you never know what you're going to get in terms of the videos, which I know it's not the best for trying to make this a business endeavor or to grow a community or audience, but I know there are other people like me. I love chaos. I love, just kind of dipping and dabbling in a lot of different things, and this is my space and place on the internet to do that. So if you connect with that and you want to come along on the journey, feel free to subscribe. If it's not what you're looking for, then unsubscribe. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm not here to beg for subscribers. It would be nice to build a nice community, but also at the same time, like, I'm gonna do what I want to do. Like it or lump it. Anyway, thanks again for watching the video, and I will be back with another one soon.